you know, as I am, I kind of go into these investigations a little on the skeptical side. Mike's a little on the skeptical side, but having said that, and then having captured what we've captured on video, we're like, man, there is a very thin veil from here to there. And there's something out there invisible that we can't see. There's something there. So we are going to share this presentation, but I'm gonna start this real quick. Let me just do this real quick. That's my spaceship Zoom beaming in here.
Hovering over their car. So what he did, he went in and got one of those old big flashlights. You know, you plug in a cigarette lighter, plugged in the cigarette lighter, and he shined it up on the thing. And he said he saw this creature, ugly as shit, he goes. I don't know what it was.
You saw it inside the craft?
Yeah. This thing shot 3 orcs. One that way towards Russell Park, one towards Forest City, and a blue one back towards Ellsworth. All right.
So is that what we think went into the pond? One of the orcs?
All the people's stories, their times match up. All right.
Wow.
This guy wants to tell a story. So he went home and his father yelled at him and said, "You're gonna lock you up if you tell anybody. Keep your head. Don't be looking at the sky." So he jumped in the car and went down to Ellsworth. If you ever down the Ellsworth Dam, so you have to park there and you have to walk off. So he said he parked there and he saw the blue one, like down in the field. And there was a stone wall, and he said he saw this creature standing on the wall, like bent over, like it was hurt. And they met. He said it was ugly. He tried to draw it, but he said it was really ugly.
Wow.
He said they met eyes, and they both went opposite directions.
So crazy. Let me stop over here. There we go. Well, hey Mike, I can't stop this. I'm sorry. Anyway, that was a video. I'm going to show you that real quick. Oh, there it is, okay. I got you. Let me just do this real quick. So here's some really wild footage here. This was, let me go back to this a little bit. So one of the,
down in the field. And there was a stone wall, and he said he saw this creature standing on the wall, like bent over, like it was hurt. And they met. He said it was ugly. He tried to draw it, but he said it was really ugly.
wow.
He said they met eyes, and they both went opposite directions.
So right here, so this is some declassified footage, Tic Tac UFO, and this was just recently. This was, I think, October 30th of 2024. And this is crazy. A Hellfire missile is being fired upon on this thing, and you can see that nothing happens to it. Here comes the missile. Boom. See those little things there? They did analysis on that. It wasn't any damage whatsoever. It was 3 other objects just like it that were basically adhered to that object that then followed it tandemly at a frame in over the ocean, and they tracked this thing. And this is just crazy. So they're getting a lot of this declassified footage now that we're starting to see. And really, really wild. Cryptids dumb. Here we go. Fun stuff. All right. Who believes in Bigfoot? And had 5-toe track, which is the track that he found right after his first encounter. This very, very weird mist that shows up. It almost obscures everything. UFO lights in the woods. Now,
there's no roads.
Yeah.
He's got fields next to him, fields on the other side, fields out back, and this is all in the woods. And there's no road close to him, and it's not carved.
At first I thought to myself, could they be ATVs? Could they be like, four-wheelers going through there? But there's no way, because we went over and did an investigation in those woods, and it was so dense in those woods. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was almost like the pine barrens. You couldn't even get through it anywhere. If you were on a four-wheeler, you'd have to stop every second to get around the trees. So that was amazing. And then he's getting like these crazy, like cryptid images on his trail cams. A pterodactyl? I mean, really, it gets bizarre. This is really wild too. So there's the black mist again, okay? He's been putting roadkill deer in this area. This is called the bait area, he calls it. Later on that night, it turns out we were the bait. But we were in this area, so Lee has this picture. You see the deer there. So these are about 30 seconds, I guess, time depart, or whatever, whatever steps in front of the camera. You see the mist? Now, the mist is gone, but the deer moved 8 feet. So whatever's there, it's either so fast, it's not able to get a picture. Lee's also gotten hair samples on the property, translucent hair samples, that he's trying to get DNA tested. And these weird, strange orbs of light. Like Mitch and Robin were talking about those orbs and shafts of light. Like those, this is basically what's happening out in Elkhorn. He's getting these kind of like weird shafts of light. And then very strange orbs. Right, Don? These will look like crazy.
It's crazy. If you look, this one looks like, you can see it over here. It looks like the guy's standing with his arms out. Plus the other ones that are up top. They're just, looks like a cat eye. It's kind of strange.
Now, I got to tell you, again, and Dominic's heard me say this a million times, I went out to this investigation thinking it was going to be BS. We weren't going to see anything. We were going to get a great documentary. We were going to talk to some great people. Never thinking once that we'd actually encounter this thing, which we did the night of October 3rd. And no protection, by the way. No, we didn't have any weapons, no bear spray, nothing. We had flashlights and a radio. That was it. That's how.
And we had air.
Yeah, push it out there. But that's how stupidly naive I was as far as this investigation was. So
we're on the plane, Eric and I are talking, and the whole time driving down to the airport, he's like, this is going to be a great documentary. I don't think we're going to catch anything. We're just going to talk to a couple people. We went out to go out to dinner, and we got flooded with people with their stories of what this creature looked like. So we're all excited now. We're piped. We're ready to go.
Because there's people that are out there that are seeing this thing, and they're telling us, like freely telling us what's going on. And so with that, here we are. Ellen is a seasoned researcher, but Dominic was visibly concerned.
What the hell did you get me into, Mantel?
So right there, we were in Lee's barn for what, 2 hours?
Yeah, we were in there looking at all different photos. We weren't allowed to take pictures of his photos. The pictures we got were ones that he was willing to give to us.
Oh my God, and I mean, when I say thousands of pictures, there's thousands of pictures, video, all kinds of stuff, just blowing our minds. It was unreal. So
even more clear pictures of not just a shoulder, but you could see the actual creature out in the field.
Oh, it was incredible.
Incredible.
So we're in the barn, and it's getting dark. It's getting late. This is October 3rd of 2021, and I said, "Hey Lee, if you don't mind, I'd love to do an investigation of this creature in the back field there, at that bait area. Would you be okay with that?" He's like, "Absolutely." So he wanted to give me a flare gun, but I never took it. I wish I would have taken it because maybe we could have lit up
Set the fire,
or I would have set the whole cornfield on fire. But it was basically, if you could picture this, it was a gigantic rectangle, a 35-acre hayfield. So all the hay was already down. So it's a big rectangle. There's corn on this side, corn up here, and then corn on this side by the bait area where we're at. And all of a sudden, we had to take four-wheelers to get down there because it was a long haul to get down there. No sooner we get off the four-wheeler, Don said,
before you even start that, we were out at dinner and it was pouring rain.
Oh yeah, right.
And we get over to Lee's barn, we're in his barn, we're talking to him, it's still pouring rain. I thought it was gonna be a washout, I didn't think we were gonna be able to go back out to the field. We get ready to go, and when we get out there, it's no more rain above his field, cleared up. And it made me look up, and this is what we saw.
What the hell is that, Eric?
What, that up there?
Is that a plane?
I don't know.
No, it's not a plane
It's-
because you would be able to see.
It would be flashing. I think we got something, Scott. Check that out. Can you get up there at all? I mean, I hear it. It sounds like it, but
No, it's moving too fast and it's getting closer.
can you hear it? Can you see that? I think you got it.
So right there is a solid orb of light that's going over the field. Now, Scott, our cameraman, was Ellen's son. You got to understand that he's doing this. He's moving around like this. But as we're sitting there, we're standing there watching this thing, It's just slowly going over, and fast.
The red dot. Because this over here is a plane.
Well, look at, that's
There's
flashing
flashing
over
light,
there.
it's a
See,
plane.
this is flashing.
That's a
And that-
plane. There's no,
yeah,
that reflection
That's
lights.
flashing.
What the hell is that?
Okay, so that's flashing over
can see
there.
everything.
But this one is not.
This one is not. This is a solid, fat.
That's a
pretty
plane, that's a plane, there's a plane over here. That is just solid light
Pretty fast
going away
moving.
from us.
Well, actually, it was getting brighter.
And then it
Holy,
just-
now it's
that's
gone.
really gone. Look at that.
It did a 45-degree angle like that and just blinked out.
Flashed out.
Incredible. Right after this is when we heard these crazy howls. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not coyotes, they're not foxes, not owls, nothing of that, not dogs. We've had people listen to this, outdoorsmen, hunters, no one can figure out what this is. But they all agree that what it sounds like, and you'll hear it, like a man screaming in this field. And you'll hear this in a second.
It's gone. It's gone.
One way out there.
There's something there. Are you hearing this howl?
I am hearing this howl. It's coming from over that way.
Oh shit.
Literally.
That's getting closer.
Oh shit. Oh
Oh
shit.
shit. So seriously, we had that oh shit moment because it was like, what the hell are we hearing? And it was crazy because, look, this doesn't do it justice. If you guys go back home, look up our YouTube video that we're starting to see. And really, really wild. Cryptids, Dom. Here we go.
Fun stuff.
Who believes in Bigfoot? Wow, hear that?
I heard that.
You heard the laugh?
I did.
It laughed.
It sure did.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Very strange. So I'm going to end it here, guys. So I'm going to just do my Lady in White story here. This was 1997. As a jazz musician, going to a gig in Bucks County. Remember the old Wycombe Inn that used to be around? I had a steady Friday and Saturday night. So I'm on my way to the gig. Long story short, I'm going down Pine Lane in Pineville there, and going at a pretty good clip, which I probably shouldn't have been going so fast, but all of a sudden, I'm going, and all of a sudden, a deer runs out in front of me, and I hit this thing. And I had to stop, I slammed the brakes on, got out of the car, and I'm looking, the deer is in the headlights, literally, and I'm looking at this poor deer in the headlights, and no one's on the road, and all of a sudden, I get out of the car, look at this thing, and all of a sudden, in the woods behind me, I hear a woman's voice say, "How's your hands?" And I'm like, first of all, I play piano, so that's just a weird question to ask. But anyway, I turn around, and I used AI to kind of give you an idea what she looked like, but that's who came out of the woods all in white, came over to this deer, I kid you not, took it by the ear, and dragged this 200-pound deer off the road, like it was light as a feather, and then said to me, "Get in your car and get out of here." And I'm still getting goosebumps to this day, because it happened, and went to the gig, I told the guys what happened, and went back the next day, thinking in my rational mind that maybe somebody lived back there and they spooked this deer. Well, there were no houses back there at the time, and it was all woods. So it was amazing. My father had the same encounter in 1975, and we used to live in Upper Black Eddy, and we lived right on River Road, and you could see the Delaware. And he came home one night at 2:30 in the morning, was cooking a steak on the grill, that little hibachi grill, and he's cooking the steak, and he's just waiting for it to get done, and he's looking at the water, and he sees this white something or other floating on the water. And as his eyes are adjusting, he's like, "Oh my God, it's a woman." As she comes this way, she turns to look at him from like a quarter mile away, and her face came right up to his face. And then she turned back and floated down the river and was saying, "I'm going home, I'm going home." and you hear these words echoing. He said he could hear the words echoing through the valley. You know, I've heard the story my whole life, even like on his deathbed a few years ago. I said, Dad, did that really happen? He's like, I swear that happened. So we've got that connection, as we've talked about before.
Absolutely.
And other people have had that connection. I always thought she was a guardian angel. I didn't even know about the lady in white, to be honest with you. I had no idea up until like last year that there was a lady in white that's been seen. I always thought she was my guardian angel.
Her a little bit. I used to perform improv on this very stage. So yeah, so people back there are very happy about that. No improv tonight though. But I do feel the urge for jazz hands, so excuse me if that happens. I'm the theater major. For a lot of people, if you don't know me, like Eric said, I've been working in paranormal and television for 2 decades at this point. And like a lot of you, my experiences started very young, and I just became very curious about what was happening. My mom is very much a believer. My dad is more of a skeptic, and so I felt like I grew up with a really good balance of both sides, but it left me with a curiosity of I know this stuff is happening, but I don't understand why it is. And as I grew older, I would get my hands on any books I could. I would watch any television show I could, like, you know, shout out to Unsolved Mysteries and X-Files and all of that stuff. And it kind of just led me on this very weird path that wasn't a job when I was growing up. When I went to college at Penn State, they had a club, and I signed up for that. They had a training course, which I'm very thankful that they had because it taught me a lot of respect for the people who are going through hauntings. And it taught me the origin of how we look at hauntings and perspective and how that plays a role into our experiences. And from there, I have traveled to 7 different countries investigating and have probably investigated, I've lost count, but hundreds of places. I've interviewed hundreds of eyewitnesses. And what I can tell you at this point is I've never been more of a skeptic, but I've also never been more of a believer. And so what does that mean exactly? It means that I absolutely believe that there are things in this world that we don't understand how they work. We don't understand what they are. We don't understand why they occur. But I think sometimes we use the wrong terms and definitions to describe those things. So what I'm going to take you guys through today, we'll do a Q&A afterwards, and we'll also have a panel with the rest of the speakers before we close out the night. But I'm going to go over some of the types of hauntings that we talk about, and probably some of the things you guys have heard on TV with some examples. And we have Mike up in the booth who's going to be going through the presentation for me because my computer wasn't doing it. So types of hauntings. So we can go to, I had the clicker, actually, I forgot about that. All right, so a couple of the things that you guys have probably heard about is there's different types. There's residual, non-residual, demonic, or sometimes what we call fluffy bunnies. It's a Buffy the Vampire reference for those who are fans, yeah. Poltergeist, thought forms, cryptozoology, and people who make up ghost stories, because that is also something we have to deal with. People who just make up a lot of, full disclosure, you guys, I use adult language. We're in like the Philly area, right? So if anybody has a problem, I'm so sorry, I can't control it really. So residual, right? We're going to talk about this one, which is the glove. This is one of the scariest cases I've ever been on. This is out near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it is a little mining town. So it was a company town, a coal miners. And all of these houses are twin houses. The family we met here, they bought the other side to their house. The first side that they were currently living in had been in their family for a few generations. So they moved in with their young family. The other side came up for sale. They bought it, full intentions to renovate. They could not keep a contractor in there, to the point where the contractors were leaving tools behind. Now, I'm married to a contractor. That is their livelihood. Tools are very expensive. It does not happen. They would try to get these contractors to come back. Hey, you left these tools behind. No, you keep them. I'm good. Again, it does not happen. Very weird thing. So they had reached out to us. And when I worked in PRS, which was the team that Paranormal State followed, we always had a psychologist on board. So even if they weren't on TV, they worked with us behind the scenes, and we would administer MMPIs, which essentially is a way to tell how truthful somebody is going to be. And this family passed with flying colors, so we have no reason to believe that they were making anything up. They actually seemed very grounded in reality. And we met a lot of different eyewitnesses to the things going on in their home. They would get intelligent responses. The children who were very young at the time correctly identified. We did a blind photo lineup for them, and they correctly identified who we thought the ghost was, who ended up being a family member of them many generations back. And they would experience things like apparitions, touchings, levitations, so even the little girl would be sitting on a chair and it would levitate in front of everybody with her on it. Voices, movement of objects, tons of witnesses. The entire neighborhood actually had activity, but not everybody was willing to talk about it. One of the pieces of activity that the mom told me about, and we don't really understand this at all, but she was saying goodnight to her son one night. He was already asleep, so she kind of poked her head in to make sure he was okay, and she saw a monkey sitting on his bed. And she kept it to herself. She's like, this is effing weird, I'm leaving. Didn't say anything. And the next day he comes to her and said, Mom, I don't know what this was, but I saw a monkey in my room last night. Why the apparition of a monkey would be there, no idea. Okay, so this is a really weird piece of activity that we got on this investigation. So what you're looking at the left is our thermal camera image. What you're looking on the right is raw camera footage. This person that you see standing here, you can kind of see their hand right there, that's our psychic, Michelle Belanger. If you guys aren't familiar with her, she is hands down, one of the best psychics I've ever worked with, very detailed. We do a lot of remote psychic readings with her, and she will sketch out buildings that I'm in without having any idea where I am. So, Mike, we can play the clip.
That is the world's shallowest closet.
Oh yeah, it's
Well, there's an opening on it, it's gotta open on another room.
pretty shallow. What else you put on? Come on, are there any spirits here? Anyone who wants to communicate? Anyone frightened of our presence? Anyone angry that we're here?
What's the 10-year-old girl's name?
Maria?
Maria, yeah.
Are you trying to frighten Maria?
Michelle, did you put your hand on the wall? Right behind you? Like right to your right shoulder?
No, right where my hands are here.
You sure? Like right to your right shoulder. Because there's a handprint right there. There. Come closer, Michelle.
There is.
Notice.
You didn't put your
She
hand.
did, dude. Look where she's standing. She was standing there the whole time she was there.
You sure, Michelle?
No, look, even if she went like this. She
I walked over, I checked the closet.
No, I walked in like that, bro.
I stood here, like this.
See it?
Yeah, absolutely. Back up a little bit.
So that handprint appeared out of nowhere. We're on the other side of the house that's being renovated. Behind Michelle is another room that's completely gutted. So it's completely down to the studs. So we know nobody was in that room. We know nobody set anything up as far as like if production was trying to pull one over on this, wasn't happening because we could see everything. And what's important about these two clips is that we clearly see in the raw footage that Michelle's hand wasn't anywhere near the wall where the handprint appeared. What's interesting about the handprint is it looks really, really large, larger than would be normal for a human hand. And as we started to dig into the experiences that the family was having, and then we started to be able to kind of do photo lineups and figure out that it seemed to be somebody that was connected to their family lineage. They were a coal miner. And when we were able to get our hands on an old coal mining glove, it matched up perfectly with the size of that hand. And as we dug into the family lineage, we found out that this man who we suspected was haunting the house was a very abusive man. He used to beat his wife, like just blatantly in the middle of the day in front of people. He was an alcoholic, by all accounts not a very nice person. And Michelle is well, I want to call her a dainty woman. She definitely has no problem letting you know who she is. And in this moment, right before this happened, she was kind of telling the spirit off, and then that handprint occurred. One of the things that we do in haunted locations, sometimes families want us to rid them of their haunting, which of course we can't promise anything, because at the end of the day, we don't know what a ghost is, so we don't know how they manifest, we don't know why they manifest. So therefore, we don't necessarily have the right tools to be able to rid anybody of that. But we can always try things. And one of the things we tried, the family was Christian, so the first time we went, we tried some Christian blessings for them, which didn't really work. The next time we went, we looked into their lineage a little bit more, and we found out that the person that we believed was haunting the house was Eastern European, and that the town he came from had some very specific beliefs about the afterlife. One of them being that to get rid of a ghost, you have to hammer an iron nail into their grave. We were able to find his grave, because it was in this town, and we took an iron nail and hammered it into his grave, and they had peace for 6 months. And it was the longest time that they had peace. So why we classified this as a non-residual haunting, meaning something that is intelligent, is because we seem to have reactions to the things that we were doing, to the questions we were asking. There seemed to be some sort of intelligence behind this. While we were there, I also saw a partial apparition with my naked eye. We didn't capture it on film, so that moment was never placed on television. But I did see a woman's arm from about here to here materialize in front of me. I'm still in touch with them today, and they still have activity, but they have not moved out. They've kind of just learned to live with it. Next, we're going to talk about demonic cases. That word is thrown around a whole lot.
Or just the missing 411.
Do you think there's portals? Do you think it's something to do with Bigfoot? I mean, to me, it's people disappear so quickly. It's really mind-boggling.
I'm so glad you asked. How many are familiar with the missing 411 phenomenon? Let me share a quick side story of the one time I almost got in a fight with David Paulides of Missing 411. Have you guys ever met David Paulides? So in fairness, he is a gifted researcher, and to his credit, he's doing truly unique research. The Missing 411 series details a number of disappearances in national parks that the National Park Service was covering up. And so I was very impressed with his work. The books are fairly dry, but it's still an eye-opening read. And so one time years ago, he was the feature speaker at a MUFON conference in Pittsburgh. And so I was familiar with his work, and then they adapted one of his books, and you can find it on Netflix. I think there's 2 Missing 411 movies. The second one's pretty good. The first one was disappointing, though, because they didn't cover any of the really weird paranormal cases. I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to make it a mass appeal for the public. So they tried to make it more of like a missing persons thing, like a true crime story. And so he spoke, he gave a good presentation, and then it came time for questions. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask like a really good question that shows that I'm like a fan of the work. So I like raised my hand. I'm like, Mr. Paulides, like this book, there's some really, really wild cases. Why for your movie did you let them do just kind of some of the more like mundane cases? I thought it was a good question. David Paulides got furious. He's like, why? What are you talking about? That case was just as weird as the other ones. Well, he was mad at me. And so then later on, his anger continued into dinner time. So that night, and I hope you don't mind the story, but I have big beef with David Paulides. So that night at dinner, they have like the speakers sitting together. So I'm sitting there, and David and his wife sit down, and his wife was like the nicest person ever. Well, David won't look at me the whole time. He won't make eye contact. He had serious beef about that question. Well, I really wanted to ask him about, he is a big believer in having a personal locating device on you, which is really, really important. He says, he swears by it. Like, if you go out in the woods, especially if you're by yourself, make sure you have a GPS locator on you. Me having 4 kids, loving the outdoors, I just wanted his opinion on what personal locator device do you recommend? And he wouldn't look at me the whole time. So finally his wife leans over, she says, David just gets really overwhelmed at these. She said, just give me your email. I'll be sure to ask him on the side, and I'll get back to you. I thought, wow, this lady is so, so nice. Maybe David's okay. Maybe I just caught him at a bad time. So I like sent her an email. I wait a week, and then another week. She finally emails me back. She's like, Jim, I talked to David. He won't give you advice. He said just pick one out on your own. I was just like, don't, Paulides. So So I just want to share that story. The one thing I will share, and this is good advice Pilates does give, and I think it's really, really important. This ties in what you guys do. He said, anytime there's a place locally that is named after a demon, the devil, or something evil, he said, avoid it at all costs. Because he said, more often than not, it is carrying that name over from Native American times. And the Native Americans absolutely knew what up. So his personal advice, I think, is very, very good. If there's an evil place, don't go tempting fate. Don't go near it. People before you were trying to warn you about it.
Just kind of piggybacking off of that, I just recently, this kind of sounds weird, I met a man who has a chocolate factory in the middle of the woods. Might have been cool, I'm not sure. But I spent some time with him in his woods. And his woods backs up to a national park. And he began to tell me the craziest stories I've ever heard in my life. Interdimensional things, ghosts, UFOs, cryptos. When I asked him, I said, is this place haunted? He turns to me and he's like, haunted's not the right word, inhabited. And that has stuck with me ever since I've met him. But it piggybacks off of what you said, because obviously the natives used that land for so long, and he has become friends with some of them that are still in the area. And some of the things he is experiencing were stories that were passed down from the natives in that area orally for generations. And it's not like they went to him and said, hey, have you had this happen? Like, they weren't gonna do that. He approached them saying, I had this strange experience. I had this strange experience. And then his friend would go on to tell him, oh yes, actually, let me tell you about the origin of that for my people.
So wild.
Yeah.
Jim's just pissing everybody off. Such a nice guy. We have a couple minutes left. Yes, sir.
Another one for Katrina, if you don't mind. I don't know if you spoke more about this in this part of your presentation. Has anyone seriously tried to bridge that poltergeist spirit connection? Because it started off as noisy ghost, like it's an actual ghost, and then comes the research saying, well, so many of these stories are around post-pubescent or pubescent teens, and there's trauma in the home, and so that's like the PK explanation.
Yeah.
Is there a way of bridging those two, the spirit versus PK?
So I think it comes back to, we have a lot to explore in the field, because again, paranormal just means science hasn't figured it out yet, right? So that's why all of those things kind of fit under that heading. And what I think is a shame is there's a bias that exists on both sides of the conversation. There's a bias for people that are very, very skeptical, and there's a bias for people that are head-on believers, right? And I think what we can do the further the field is kind of drop both of those sides and meet in the middle and look at everything, every category, and say, okay, here's this category, here's the patterns we see in this. Here's this category, here's the patterns we see in this. And I think it would really behoove us to start bringing more science into it. So I just talked to a physicist the other week who's very excited about using his past as a physicist to kind of help us in paranormal investigations. Because I do really think there's something happening, not in every case. Obviously I think there's misidentification, and then there's environmental things that can affect us. But in the cases that are truly unexplainable activity, what is that? Why is that happening? Is that, again, I go back to, there's cases we know where there's been UFO sightings and they have classic haunted houses nearby. So is it really a ghost? Maybe it's not. And I go back to Duke University in the 30s, we're moving that forward. The Ryan Institute in North Carolina is still trying to move some ESP research forward. And there's a couple departments in the UK that still have parapsychology departments.
Do you mind if I follow up?
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you, like you just said, we need to bring more science into it.
Yeah.
What about more anthropology or,
Yes.
I was just reading a book, Beyond Fortune.
Not off the top of my head.
She's I think late 19th, early 20th century novelist. All of that's kind of Water with Golden Dawn sort of stuff. In a book recently, she talked about what she called artificial elements, essentially thought forms.
Yeah.
And I just wonder whether or not anyone is thinking
question. So I think again, it's like there's the two sides of it, because we also know anthropologically that when humans don't understand something, we really want to label it. So we do this. So we can look at ancient cultures, and perfect example is they had a bad crop year, so it's the gods punishing them. Where they did have a bad crop year, so that the result is true. It's just they didn't have the origin of it correct. So we really love to put supernatural spins on things, and I have no doubt in 100 years, some of the things that we think are currently paranormal activity, we'll have answers for, and they'll be completely benign. But that doesn't mean that other pieces of paranormal activity or other instances of it aren't something else. And I think you raise a really interesting question of looking back to history, looking back through anthropology, and see, again, I go back to patterns a lot. What are the patterns that we can see existing? And can we use any of those patterns to try to move the field forward? Thank you.
And I love that because there was a thing that, are we creating the paranormal? Are we creating it in our minds? Our mind sees what it believes, right? So that was another thing too. So your thought of, having I don't know, you guys know the Betty and Barney Hill story, the abduction. Well, a lot of people don't realize they had a lot of poltergeist activity happening after this abduction. So there was things happening in their home that was going on that wasn't really talked about. But really interesting connections there. We had one more question. Yes. Ma'am.
The Dybbuk box stories, do you believe those? And if so, what's your take on those?
I stay away from those.
Me too.
So the box is, for anybody who doesn't know, it's essentially a box that people say there's a spirit inside, and if you let the spirit out, bad things can happen. So again, it's kind of hard to explain as far as breaking it down into here's the definition of what's happening, because I think so much of supernatural activity and how we talk about it is based off of our beliefs. So how much do our beliefs play into either how we perceive things or how things might manifest, if that makes sense. So for example, if I'm somebody that has a Dybbuk box and I full on believe if I open that Dybbuk box, all hell's gonna break loose. Well, if something happens in my house, say it's even nothing paranormal, I might say that was because of the Dybbuk box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I might start putting a spin on it because I've already made up my mind something like that is gonna happen. Or could it be something where there is energy in this world that can step into those ideas, and something realizes we're already on that track, and so then we kind of, like the Philip experiment, we kind of almost create a haunting.
Thank you.
Yeah.